Good evening. I'd like to stand for the pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as always, I'd like to thank the veterans and their families for the sacrifices that they've made for this country and the opportunity to be here as a group tonight. Sounds like someone's coming in the back door. First on the agenda tonight for the voting items is the millage rate for tax year 2021. I'm going to ask if there is a motion on the table tonight.
Mayor, I make a motion. We set the millage rate at 4.003.
I'll second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. That is the current millage rate from 2020. I wanted to clarify that. Second on the agenda is Presidential Oaks Properties, LLC. This is for rezoning request for R-21-08 and R-2109. At about noon today, the applicant submitted revised and amended plans based on comments from both the public and the public hearing and a revision to the staff report. The applicant's representative, Adam Rosen, is here this evening. And in light of the late amendments, I'd like to give you a brief opportunity to present. I would ask that you limit your time to 5 minutes, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, I am Adam Rosen. I do represent Presidential Oaks, who is here with us tonight, and Sam White is the owner of the property, along with Matt Sullins, who is our engineer, is here with us as well. We did submit a revised plan today. Unfortunately, it wasn't any earlier, but fortunately, that plan is consistent with staff's revised recommendations. That recommendation came out on November 8th, following the November 4th hearing. That's the Jerry White and Associates recommendations for both 08 and both 08 and 09 applications. When we submitted that revised plan, my letter also outlined a couple of things. One is the different changes to the plan that we did make, and I can show that to you briefly tonight, as well as clarifying that we do agree with and agree to be bound by the conditions that staff has proposed in their recommendations. So if council were to approve this request tonight or in the future, the applicant would have to comply with those conditions, and we've clarified that in this letter, so that that's understood by everyone here and you as council. But we recognize that everyone in the room has not seen that revised plan until today. So our request tonight is that we have this heard in December instead of tonight. And we think that that's the fair way to give everybody an opportunity to see the revisions, you as council, staff to be able to review it, and the folks in the room to be able to have an opportunity to see the plan. And hopefully for us to be able to have dialogue with them to see if there's any changes to this plan that they'd like to see as well. We've only talked to a couple of folks in the room tonight before this meeting. I tried to send my letter to those that signed in at the November 4th meeting. We want to continue to try to make that dialogue work for everyone, just so you can kind of have an idea of what these changes are. And these were consistent with the recommendations from the November 4th evening, we've moved the access off of Mulberry Street so that it's solely limited to Atlanta Highway. We will still dedicate the 30 feet from center as far as the right-of-way dedication on Mulberry Street. So if the city decides to improve that road at a later time, it has the property from us to be able to do that. But we will have a no-access easement along that whole section of Mulberry Street, so there will not be access on this development now or in the future. We've identified the buffering along this side of the development as well as the corner track, this track 3, in the front along Atlanta Highway. We've changed that track 3 to OI instead of highway business. I think that was a request made at the hearing as well. And you can see the new access here on Atlanta Highway instead of on Mulberry Street. We've included the buffer and setbacks adjoining residential to meet the UDC requirements. Those are the main changes to the plan. Those are consistent with staff's recommendations, and then we agree with the rest of those, which are the 1 through 11 from the 08 request and the 09 request of 1 through 5. That's anything from density to building height to the other bulk area regulations related to what can be built, 2-car garages, architectural requirements, all of that. Your applicant is saying we will comply with those. Some of that gets engineered and ferreted out in the plan review process after your approval, but whatever it is, we're agreeing to comply with that and comply with the ordinance. We're not asking for any variances. But again, we recognize that this has not been seen by everyone before noon or even tonight. So we ask that for tonight, this be continued until the December hearing, so we have an opportunity to work with the community, so that the city staff, the news council, can see this and consider it. We can answer any questions tonight if you'd like us to, but I've been told to be limited in my time, so thank you.
Questions from the council?
Mayor, I make a motion that we table.
Oh, wait. One second. It's also appropriate that we give the opportunity to opposition. Again, so that we don't have 25 people speaking the exact same thing. If you have someone that has like opinion, if you designate one person that, and again, limit your time to 5 minutes, much like we just did for the applicant. So if there is someone that would like to speak in opposition at this time, this is the opportunity. And state your name and your address.
Larry King. My main concern, of course, is dealing not just with the property owners on Mulberry, but also all the expenses going to be incurred by the city as far as the items that will have to be addressed in dealing with Mulberry. Number one, any runoff, as it stands right now, there's already some concerns with runoff that comes in behind the nursing home, where once it reaches pipes up there, it becomes a pond.
In our front yard.
And it basically becomes basically a world. All out of there simply because of the water runoff that exists now. Coming off of, so you're reducing the amount of saturated area that's diminishing the water and actually adds to it. I know he's talking about that there has to be a holding pond and a storm drain pond together to control the water. But still, that water has got to go somewhere. Even if it goes out onto Atlanta Highway and comes down, it still goes to the same place in there by the creek, in between the nursing home and the Dollar General, which creates a problem on further down. we do know that we got access, and all of 211 Price is already going to be affected by 316, construction. So there's going to be a lot of changes there. So there will have to be some issues that are addressed as far as drainage on Price already. Plus, a lot of that water comes off of there, it runs down, comes in behind, in between Mulberry and Sunshine, or Sunset over there. It goes down to that creek because of the difference in the elevation. The other things that need to be dealt with, of course, is going to be, not just from that, but on Mulberry, there's 3 different places where water flows. And in some places, all the way across the road, right in the curve where my house is at. When it gets heavy rain, it flows. If you do anything to Mulberry, there'll also have to be power lines moved, water lines moved, phone lines moved, because you cannot make the road accessible and legal without removing and moving those, all those things. The other thing, of course, you got some very large oak trees that's already there. They'll have to be removed in order to extend the road, make it wide enough to be public access with that amount of volume. So there are several concerns. The other thing is Mulberry and Coleman are used as the exercise area for pretty much everybody up and down Price and those subdivisions all the way to the Party Fun Park. They come and walk in that area because on the south side of 29, we do not have walkways. We don't have exercise lanes. We don't have a park. That's the only safe place that they can actually walk.
That's true.
And you know, plus we got to look at the amount of increase in traffic that's going to be going through those areas that create a hazard from that standpoint. And of course, you know, then dealing with the reduction in our acreage as far as the existing right of way that's there now, of course, it's going to be taking several hundred foot of my property. With any widening of that road.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry, that went too long. There's some things that you need to be considering, in this proposal too.
Thank you.
I have a comment. I wasn't physically here at the workshop, but I was at home, and I listened to what everybody had to say. And I will say this much as far as me, my biggest concern is that we have subdivisions being built now, that we really don't know how much that is going to impact our city as it is. Traffic, schools, what it's gonna cost the city. There's so many variables that we don't know, and to bring in more at this time, I can't see that. I can't see it. If anybody else does anything different, we don't know until the homes are built, people are in it.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. Thank you. So I guess at this point, we've had both parties. Is there any left on the presenting party?
No.
Counselor?
No.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask if there is a motion on the table for this rezone, these rezones.
Mayor, in light of the timing of the application and the applicant meeting everything at the last minute here, and also in light of the concern from the public, and us not having enough time to get enough information, I would suggest that I would make a motion that we table the rezoning of residential Oaks properties R-21-08 to the December workshop and council meeting.
And is that also as R2109 or just as
Correct. Both.
And this
The
would be,
workshop or the meeting?
this would be the meeting December 21.
Well, both of these items are gonna be addressed again in the workshop and the voting session, so.
So your motion would have to be clear as to which meeting you want it tabled to. You want it tabled to the next work session, it needs to be tabled to that, and then because that's a non-voting, it would necessarily then be back on for a vote in December as well.
Yes. Which one do you want?
So can we make a motion to table R21-08 and R21-09 until the December workshop?
Which would be the 9th, I believe, is that correct? So that would be, okay, the motion is to table this to the work session on December 9th. Do I have a second?
I do.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed?
Two.
Next up on the agenda is a preliminary plat for Statham Place. The planning staff, excuse me. The planning staff is supplementing its response with regard to preliminary plat based on the activities on this site and the adjacent final plat property that is currently considered in violation of city codes. It is recommendation of the city staff and the consulting planner to table the approval of this application for PP-21-04, preliminary plat for December 21, 2021, regular city council meeting. An email was sent to all council members and printed copies of that email was attached and placed in each member's mailbox. Mr. Weiss, would you like to summarize the reason for tabling or the tabling request?
Yes, Mayor, I will. Basically, the memo that you received was a collaboration between myself and city staff, April Plank, who has been helping with planning and zoning matters. And the memo is 4 pages, so it goes into a lot of detail about how all of the various applications transpired, including the subdivision of property along the highway, the State Highway 211, which got broken off of the property as a whole. Initially, the property as a whole came in for a preliminary plat, and we wanted to see that property connected. In other words, we wanted to see a through road, subdivision street from 211 over to Dooleytown Road to connect, so that there would be connection, and that they would not have to come out only on one highway or one road. So then, basically what happened was the applicant said, well, no, we're not going to develop the rear part of it. And they came in with an application that was a final plat at the time. Since then we amended the code to not allow this, but they came in with 10 lots all along the front of 211 and said that they were not going to develop the back piece of property. So we final platted that. They've got building permits for it. And then later they came in with this application, the one before you tonight, which is to preliminary plat the back piece of the property, which we were basically told they weren't going to develop, that it was going to be conservation, open space, et cetera. So honestly, we feel a little bit deceived by the way the applicant did it. I mean, they may be different ownerships now, but they seem to be still connected. On top of all that, what what the memo does is it documents some of the, which I'm not a part of, but the city staff and the Bureau Veritas, the code enforcement agents, found there was some grading land disturbance that was going on without the proper permit. There was burial, buried pits, dug, and not sure how much things got buried, but in any event, this is longer than I probably needed to go, but our recommendation was therefore, because there may be there's alleged violations of codes related to land disturbance and development, and because of the fact that we wanted to see this property developed as one subdivision with a connecting road, that we go back and you table it, and we find out what the status of the violations are, and then also try and talk to the applicant about whether they are willing to come back in and see some kind of a through road, a connection over to 211, because it's not, if you think about it from a public facility standpoint, you've got to go all the way up to 211, you know the road system, you got to go all the way up to Dooleytown, and then come back down to get to this subdivision if we approve it that way without any access. So there was an important issue that we would have pushed and brought before you to the city council, but when they would do a preliminary plat, but they, as I said, they broke it into two pieces and kind of frustrated the city's intentions in the process. So those are the reasons for requesting that it be taken.
Okay. And I will add that there has been a stop work order issued, so, this has been, I believe, turned over to the EPA. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion, we table the Statham Place preliminary plat application until December work session.
December work session.
And I will second that.
All those in favor? Unanimous. And final on here is, everyone should have a copy of the minutes for the November 4th work session and public hearing. Are there any questions, concerns, or questions in reference to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the work session, November 4, 2021?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Which one? Eddie?
Doesn't matter.
All those in favor? Unanimous. I want to thank everybody for coming this evening, and,
Mary, we need a motion to adjourn.
oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Second? All those in favor? Thank you again. Keep me on.
Yep.
Your refrigerator, your freezer, everybody got the grade. Yeah, everybody got
There's this woman that went there, when I get pregnant, trying to take a 4-year-old daughter back to the that happened.